Welcome to the Grief Cafe. My name is Mweni Wambua and I am your favorite grief educator. At the Grief Cafe, we gather here and grieve together and grow together, because you know what? It's not about doing grief wrong or right. It is about doing grief in healthy ways or unhealthy ways, doing grief in ways that enhance your well-being, doing grief in ways that ensure that you're able to move forward beyond the loss. And so it is that time of the year when everyone has decorated for the holidays. You know, to use a common Kenyan phrase, wacha tu niseme hii kitu initoke. On my way home, there is a mall. They decorate this mall sometime in November, actually around early November. And let me tell you, the minute they put up that decoration, something in me just thinks, where am I going to work? Why do I have to go to work? I want to go on holiday, because the Christmas lights just have a way of affecting my emotions in that way. Unfortunately for me, that season is also one of my busiest seasons in the year. And so even though everything within me wants to go on holiday, realistically, it is not even practical to plan to go on holiday at that time. And so that's our conversation today. When everything around us is screaming Christmas, when everything around us is screaming holiday, when everything around us is screaming merry and cheer and, you know, happy, how do you navigate grief when it just doesn't feel like there's anything to be cheery about? It feels lonely. It feels overwhelming. In fact, there are times when you actually get annoyed with people because what's so merry about Christmas? Because if you have had a loss within the course of the year, Christmas can be something that is just overwhelming, and it can be something that just you actually hope that we can shut down December, you know, and from November and then just wake up and it's January. Because that Christmas season, even though there are a few days of celebration, they can be very overwhelming, they can be very triggering, and they can be filled with such a deep sense of loneliness, and your loss comes to the fore very, very powerfully. So how do we navigate this season? Many times when I speak about grief, it is easy to think that I speak from a place of theory. But let me tell you a bit about my grief experience. 4 years ago, something changed on my birthday. My dad died on the morning of my birthday. And so that has continued to be a journey that I navigate every year when my birthday comes around. I struggle. I'll be honest, I struggle. And I don't struggle because I'm not a person of I am not a person of faith, but I struggle because of the emotions that come up at that time. I want to stay in bed all day, but I also want to be with people. I want people to call me and invite me for events, but I don't want people to call me and invite me for events. I want to celebrate the day with people. I don't want to see anyone on that day. And so I'm still learning how to live with that loss. So back to the holidays with grief. 21st of December, and my dad has died. And so Christmas was the most difficult Christmas ever. Family came around, friends came around, people came around. And even though, and I mean, my mom was still very aware that she has grandchildren and she has family. And so as usual, she said, we need to slaughter a goat, we need to do meat, we need to eat to celebrate Christmas in a certain way, in certain practices and norms that were part of our family way of celebrating. But it felt different, because even though we were doing all these things, I could not, and it wasn't just me, as a family, we could not get over the reality that we are doing these things, but my dad is not just absent, but he's actually not being buried. It felt difficult. It felt like we had, it felt like we are pretending, but we are not pretending, because really, I thank God for the people that came around us at that time. They did not want us to pretend. They did not give us room to pretend. But subsequent Christmases have been difficult. Subsequent Christmases have been wondering, do we need to pretend so that we don't make the people around us uncomfortable? Because, oh my goodness, you cannot separate Christmas and anniversary of when my dad passed on. And so do we have to conjure up these feelings of merrymaking and cheerfulness so that we don't suck out the air in the room in the different places that we're in? I thank God for my family, because we managed to come together in the last couple of years during this season. And we come together, we remember my dad, but we also celebrate my birthday. And for that, I thank God. We have cried and we have laughed. We have cut cake in the midst of the tears. And that has and continues to be a work in progress for me, and indeed for us as a family. And you know, when this time comes up, I wonder whether you have gone through a loss this year, a loss of any kind. And just like me, you're wondering, how am I going to navigate Christmas and the loss? How am I going to navigate Christmas and the grief? How am I going to navigate my grief? And how am I going to be true to myself and be authentic, as we always urge you to be, and still manage this season, not disconnect from the people around me in this season? Because you know what? There's going to be many emotions at this season. There's going to be a sadness and a longing for that which you lost. There's going to be a sadness and a longing and a questioning, and you're going to miss the presence of the person that you lost. And that is okay. There might be even a deep sense of loneliness, a feeling of, if so and so was here, if this and that was here, Christmas would look different. If you've lost a family member, if you've lost a loved one, Christmas would definitely look different, because guess what? There's even a seat in the table where they sit. You know the way families have regular positions for who sits where? Now that seat is empty. And so there's a stark reminder that something is missing. Truth is, you can also have feelings of frustration and resentment, because what are you all celebrating? You might even get bitter as people make plans, because they're making plans and they seem to have forgotten that you don't have someone to make plans with. They seem to have forgotten that in their making of their plans, you are aware that you no longer have someone to make plans with. And so what are you going to do with this loneliness that you're feeling? And then there can also be the heaviness of bittersweet nostalgia. You know, just that whole, last year, Christmas was different. The year before, Christmas was different. As you remember the last time you spent the Christmas holiday, the New Year holiday with your loved one. And that nostalgia can feel so bittersweet, and you don't know how. You want to revisit those memories, but you also don't want to revisit those memories. And then it can just be pure and plain feeling of overwhelm. Oh, so many emotions. And then sometimes truth is, because even the people around you, family, friends, colleagues may realize that, wait a minute, so and so lost their loved one. And so everyone is inviting you to their Christmas celebrations. And so you're feeling overwhelmed, because even though their invitations are well-meaning, now they're forcing you to kind of choose. They're forcing you to kind of choose who you prefer more than the other. And you don't want to do that, because truth is, at that point in time, you're also living with a very awareness that time is very limited, and so you kind of want to go for all of them. But now one is in one end of the world and the other one is in the other end of the world. And so even though these many invitations are a good thing, they actually become overwhelming. And so You're also wondering, if I go for this party, what if I break down? What if I suck the air out of the room? And I also don't want to go to the party and stick out like a sore thumb and look like, oh my goodness. And I don't want to go to a party where I start looking like an object of pity. Again, overwhelm. But another complex emotion that we feel at this time is guilt. Because sometimes we genuinely do want to enjoy the holiday. We genuinely are catching on the spirit of the holiday. But then we feel guilty about that. We feel a sense of betrayal, like we are betraying the one that has passed on, because how dare we enjoy the holiday? How quickly have we forgotten them and allowed ourselves to enjoy the holiday? And so that guilt in itself can also be overwhelming. And there could also be a guilt about unresolved issues and guilt about conversations that were never had. And now maybe you're living with the awareness that I can have these conversations with the people around me, and I'm living with the awareness that the people around me do need to have we do need to have difficult conversations, but you feel guilty for not having had that with the person who passed on. All these emotions are real. Because you know why? Navigating Christmas is deeply personal, and whatever emotions arise, they're valid. It is also important to give yourself love and compassion at this time. And so, how do we do this? Today, I'm going to give you 5 R's that will help you navigate this Christmas season. Number 1 is recognize. It is okay for you to acknowledge the emotions that you're feeling. It is okay for you to acknowledge that it is Christmas and people are allowed to enjoy their merrymaking, and people are allowed to celebrate the holidays in the best way they know how. And it is also important to recognize the emotions that you're having. Recognize them, acknowledge them. They are valid, they are real, and they are not a figment of your imagination. Recognize also that this Christmas, this holiday season, this New Year's Eve, this celebration is going to look different from how previous ones have looked. And that's okay. Just recognize and acknowledge that. It may even be possible that your life has permanently been changed because of what happened in the course of the year, because of the grief that you're carrying from the course of the year, from the activities of the year, from the events of the year. It is okay. Recognize it, acknowledge it. It is, and face it without judgment. Second R, recollect. What did you lose within the course of the year? What changed within the course of the year? What do you miss that was there in the course of the year? Recollect. What was it? What did it feel like when this thing was there, when this person was there, when you had this dream? What did that feel like? Allow yourself to remember. Allow yourself to remember. And sometimes we are afraid that when we remember, we will break down. We are afraid that when we remember, we will cry. We are afraid that when we remember, we will feel the pain. Truth is, remembering is not something that we actually struggle to do. It's actually something that comes naturally to us. And so once you acknowledge that remembering is a natural thing, because guess what? Some of the losses that we go through in the course of the year, you cannot forget them. So it is naive even possibly, or it is unrealistic for you to think that you have forgotten about your loss. But you know what? There are 2 different things. It is one thing for you for you to have this unrealistic remembrance, but it's another thing for you to intentionally sit down, for you to intentionally recollect, for you to consciously remember. Because when you consciously remember, when you intentionally recollect, it comes back with a sense of hope. It comes back with a sense of the past was beautiful. It comes back with an awareness of the blessings that you've had in your life, even when you look at them and think that these blessings have existed in the past. It comes back with an awareness of the journey that you have walked. It comes back with an awareness that this is what my life has been. It comes back with also a sense of comfort, because you're reminded that at one point in time, you did have something, someone, some place that you held precious. And that is a good thing to remember. And you know, when we remember, we also find ourselves thinking, the good days did not last. The good days did not last, because when you remember the good days. But also, another thing that you remember is, therefore, because the good days will not last, even the bad days will not last. The good days were not forever, and the bad days will not be forever. So recollecting and remembering consciously gives you a sense of hope and reminds you that life does move forward. It reminds you that life does go on. It reminds you of the continuity of life. Allow yourself to have those memories and sit with them. If you remember and tears roll down your face, it's okay. If you remember and you want to laugh, please go ahead and laugh. If you remember and other emotions come to the fore, allow yourself to feel those emotions. Don't run away from them. Allow yourself to sit with those emotions without judgment. The third thing to do during the holidays is relinquish. You know, there are many things that we hold on to when we are going through grief that are not ours to carry, that are not ours to hold on. Indeed, relinquish is defined as to voluntarily cease keeping claim over something. To voluntarily cease to keep claim over something. To voluntarily give up something. To voluntarily let go of something. Relinquish is about choice. Relinquish is to be able to get to a place and decide, you know what? I need to let go of this thing. I need to let go of this thing so that I can move forward. Now, do not get me wrong. I am not saying that relinquishing is easy, but I am saying that relinquishing is possible, and yes, it is even necessary. What memories do I carry? What new ones do what memories do I carry? What new ones do I choose to carry going forward? What are the things that I've been holding on to that are hindering me from being able to move forward to that which I need to that which I desire to that which I perceive is possible? Am I stuck in the pain of the past? Or am I afraid of the possibility of the future? Is there something in between there that I need to relinquish that would allow me to move forward into the possibility that lies ahead? Number 4, readjust. And even though we are reluctant to admit it, many of us are creatures of habit. There's a way we do things. There's a way we operate. We have a pattern, we have a rhythm, we have a predictability. We have traditions and we have norms. And that's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that we have those. And sometimes we have them and they are such a part of us that when a time comes and we need to readjust, we struggle and we don't know how to. But you know what? Readjustment allows you to begin to see the new possibilities. We need to begin to allow yourself to emerge afresh from the season of loss and grief. The last R is to reimagine. Remember, your loss is personal, and therefore your reimagination of how to navigate this is also going to be personal. So how do we do this? Nobody else knows how you feel. Nobody else really knows how you're going through. They can relate, they can understand, but they will never quite know. And so to reimagine allows you to reinvent new ways to honor the memory of what you lost or who you lost. Instead of having a Christmas tree, you can plant a tree. You can still cut a cake and remember the memory of your loved one. You can still host the dinner party, but before the celebrations begin at this event, you can pause and take a moment to remember them. You can pause and take a moment to remember what you lost. You can choose to not go where you have always gone. But on the other hand, remember that sometimes the very same things that some people may be difficult, for some people it may be difficult to do because of the loss. For other people, they can be easier to do because they help in the healing journey. And so the idea of reimagine and reinvent is for you to find what works for you. If going to the place where your loved one enjoyed to be is soothing to your soul, by all means go. If going is painful, by all means do not go. Either way, find the way that works for you. Reimagine, reinvent, rediscover the different ways there are for you to celebrate Christmas. Share your feelings with people around you that care for you and let them know why this is difficult. Set boundaries for yourself and decide what engagements to take on in this season. And by the way, when it comes to what engagements to take on, I have learned this one thing. You may actually leave the house thinking, believing, and hoping that you will be okay once you get to that party. But you get there and then it becomes complex. You get there and then you feel overwhelmed. It is okay to give yourself permission to leave. You don't have to stay if you don't feel okay staying. It is okay to leave. It is okay to even get to a place and sit in the parking lot and think, I can't do this. Or go to an event and then realize that it gets a bit overwhelming. You can step out and catch your breath. It is okay to set boundaries around your Christmas season. But finally, in all this, remember to be compassionate and to extend yourself kindness. Remember that not everyone understands what you're going through. And even though they're trying to love you in the best way they can, that's okay. They don't have to understand it. And sometimes, just because they don't understand it, they may not know how to support you. So it may help for you to speak up. So the 5 R's again: recognize that you're going through grief and what you're feeling is normal. Number 2, recollect what was and what it meant to you. Number 3, relinquish what you need to let go of in this season. Number 4, readjust the ways in which you celebrate the holidays. And number 5, reimagine and allow yourself to create and reinvent new traditions and find meaningful ways to celebrate this season. And that's our show tonight. May the Lord bless you, may the Lord watch over you, and may the holidays be gentle on you. Tuendelee kuongea. Asante.
When things fall apart, you will never